Britain is to roll out a mass vaccination campaign against coronavirus from next week. Regulators have approved a vaccine in record time. The Prime Minister has acknowledged it will be a massive logistical exercise. It's never been attempted before. Millions of doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine will arrive in the next few days. An election official in Georgia, a Republican, is pleading with President Trump to dial down the rhetoric against his colleagues over the election result. Mr. Trump is angry that a second recount has made no change to Joe Biden's victory there. One of the most influential European politicians of the past half-century, the former president of France, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, has died at the age of 94. His family say he died of complications linked to COVID-19.
A COVID-19 vaccine jointly created by Pfizer and BioNTech. The government says it will begin administering the treatments next week. Israeli lawmakers pass a proposal to end the country's coalition government, creating the possibility of a fourth election in 2 years. In Bangkok, thousands of people protest after Thailand's highest court finds the country's prime minister not guilty of wrongdoing. And 3 well-known Hong Kong pro-democracy activists are sentenced to prison for their involvement in a protest last year.
We begin in the United Kingdom, where the government is set to roll out the coronavirus vaccine developed by U.S. pharma giant Pfizer and Germany's BioNTech. People will start receiving shots early next week. The emergency approval is the first in the West.
The biggest program of mass vaccination in the history of the UK, and that's going to begin next week.
The government says it has confirmed the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. Health Secretary Matt Hancock revealed Britain will get the first shipment of 800,000 doses. Mass vaccinations will take place next year, with priority placed on residents of homes for the elderly, nursing care workers, and people aged 80 or over. British residents expressed hope at the news, a glimpse of optimism after suffering one of the highest per capita death rates from the virus in Europe.
I think it's what we needed. It's something everyone's been expecting. It's giving us kind of an option to go back into our normal lifestyle again.
I think it's very good news, and the sooner they're approved, the better, and the quicker those are rolled out, the better.
But Prime Minister Johnson is urging the public to keep taking preventive steps, like wearing masks and washing hands, as it will take several months for high-risk people to complete their shots. Turning now to Russia. President Vladimir Putin has ordered the start of mass vaccinations against COVID-19 next week. The move comes as medical systems are on the verge of collapse in some rural areas. Medical workers and teachers will be first to get the shots of a domestically developed vaccine the government approved in August. Some members of the public have already been inoculated. Putin also said new hospitals have opened in rural regions and stressed the government is making efforts to expand the medical system. Russia marked a record 589 daily deaths from the virus on Wednesday. New cases are running at a rate of more than 25,000 a day. Local media have reported that wards are full in hospitals in rural areas, including a region in Russia's northwest and in Siberia. Patients are reportedly being treated in beds placed in hallways. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is revising its guidance on the length of coronavirus quarantine periods. For some people, that period can be as short as 7 or 10 days, an alternative to the current 14-day standard. CDC says a 7-day quarantine, followed by a negative test result, could work for people showing no symptoms after virus exposure. For individuals who don't take a test, they could leave quarantine after 10 days if they show no symptoms. CDC still recommends a 14-day quarantine, as they say there is a small risk that someone leaving quarantine early could spread the virus. But they're hoping the shorter options will encourage more compliance, specifically mentioning the economic hardship people face with potentially taking 2 weeks off work. CDC also suggests travelers consider getting tested 1 to 3 days before travel and then again 3 to 5 days after travel. According to Johns Hopkins University, global infections totaled more than 64 million cases on Wednesday. Over 1.4 million people have died. Moving now to Hong Kong, where the sentencing of 3 key pro-democracy leaders is drawing international criticism. Joshua Wong, Agnes Chow, and Ivan Lam will each spend between 7 and 13.5 months behind bars for their role in one of last year's major protests. The unauthorized rally took place before China passed a new national security law, which many say has effectively silenced the movement. After the court decision, the British Foreign Secretary tweeted that rights and freedoms in Hong Kong must be upheld. Dominic Raab also urged authorities to end their campaign to stifle opposition. A spokesperson for the European Union promised that the bloc's foreign ministers would meet on Monday to discuss the issue. The official described the sentencing as another sign of shrinking space for pro-democracy voices. The president of Taiwan says she was saddened by the news, calling the activists brave young people. Tsai Ing-wen tweeted that Taiwan stands with the people of Hong Kong and told pro-democracy fighters it's not time to lose hope. A group of U.S. lawmakers is calling for congressional action to help Hong Kong descendants hoping to move to America. It's one of more than a dozen recommendations made by a bipartisan commission tasked with assessing China's growing threat.
The challenges posed by the Chinese Communist Party are not partisan. They are American concerns. China is an adversary presenting unique and immediate threats to our economic and security interests.
The U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission says Beijing is becoming more aggressive, both at home and abroad. It says Washington should remove barriers for pro-democracy activists hoping to flee prosecution. The report says when China passed the new national security law, it disregarded its obligations to Hong Kong by violating the one country, two systems framework. It says that fundamentally transformed China's relationship with democracies around the world. The report also recommends the U.S. strengthen its ties with Taiwan as China intensifies military operations around the island. It says China's actions in Hong Kong show that its promise to reunify with Taiwan while respecting its autonomy is hollow. The report also warns that China is trying to use economic and political control to expand its international influence and subvert UN agencies. It says China wants to create global standards for technology to ensure countries must rely on their products. The committee is calling on Congress to put aside partisan differences and address these concerns. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has indicated he will maintain the Trump administration's tariffs on Chinese imports for the time being. Biden has told the New York Times he's not going to make any immediate moves. President Donald Trump slapped tariffs of up to 25% on products from China. The same will go for a deal requiring China to buy massive amounts of U.S. farm products. Biden said he will pursue trade policies that actually produce progress on China's abusive practices. He cited the theft of intellectual property and illegal subsidies to corporations. The president-elect told the newspaper the best China strategy is to get all U.S. allies on the same page. He said building such a coalition will be a priority in the opening weeks of his presidency.